Good morning and welcome, or good afternoon and welcome to FATV, to this special program. I'm Ray Ruga, CEO of FinTech Americas, and I'm excited to guide you through today's session, a deep dive into one of the most transformative forces of our time, artificial intelligence. So why focus on AI today? Well, because it's not just a trend, it's a revolution. From reshaping industries to redefining job roles, AI is the cornerstone of the future, particularly in financial services. The dawn of ChatGPT and the rapid development of large language models aren't just for technological feats. They signal the start of a new era, one where AI drives efficiency, inclusion, and growth, fundamentally altering how we do business. But this wave of opportunity comes with its share of challenges. We're past the phase of just exploring AI. Now the task is to deploy it strategically within enterprises. The question is no longer if AI will drive change, but how we leverage it to create a competitive advantage. Organizations must walk a tightrope, balancing the need to enhance customer experience and operational efficiencies while grappling the complex issues of data privacy, ethical AI use, and workforce upskilling. Today, we'll explore where AI stands, where it's headed, and most importantly, how businesses can responsibly and effectively adopt these technologies for sustained growth. But before we dive deeper, let's take a look at some of the critical data points to set the stage. A McKinsey & Company survey reveals that 65% of organizations are now regularly using generative AI, almost double the figure from just a year ago. Deal activity around AI startups spiked in the second quarter of 2024 with 65 acquisitions, a 55% increase over the second quarter of 2023, and a 15% rise from first quarter this year, according to Crunchbase. Gartner predicts that by 2026, more than 80% of enterprises will have used generative AI APIs or deployed AI-enabled applications, while PwC estimates that by 2030, 45% of total economic gains from AI will come from product enhancements, driving consumer demand through personalization, increased variety, and affordability. Now, as we've been watching the stock market in the last few days and the news coming out of NVIDIA from their earnings report, let's put some perspective from Sequoia Capital. A few years back, they identified a growing gap between the revenue expectations implied by AI infrastructure buildouts and actual revenue growth in the ecosystem. What was once an AI $200 billion question, according to them, has now ballooned into a $600 billion question. As companies continue to invest heavily in AI infrastructure, the challenge is transforming that investment into real-world value for end users. How do we close the gap and make AI not just a technological milestone, but a true business driver? Well, as you can see, we have a lot to cover in this conversation today with our panel of renowned AI experts. First, we have Xiaochen Zhang, Executive Director and Chief Responsible AI Officer for AI 2030. Shubhra Kathuria, AI and Metaverse Product and Innovation Leader at EY, and Kaushal Sheth, co-founder and chief architect, Sovo Solutions, GFT. Here's a little bit of info about them to help you get to know them better before our conversation. Xiaochen has over 20 years of experience in financial markets and international development, with a passion for using emerging technology to create a better world. He's been a venture partner, mentor, advisor, and speaker for innovation programs globally. Besides his work at AI 2030, he is the founder and CEO of FinTech for Good, a network that works with startups, industry leaders, and investors to harness blockchain, AI, metaverse, and cloud computing for social good. AI 2030 is an initiative aimed at harnessing the transformative power of AI to benefit humanity while minimizing its potential negative impact. Shubhra is another expert with decades of experience who specializes in generative AI and metaverse. She has repeatedly identified emerging technology trends in advance, then fostered creation of new products and services that shape the future while delighting customers. In addition to enterprise AI, she works closely with content creators, providing expertise on the best AI tools to help them get a jumpstart. Ernst & Young EY is one of the largest professional services networks in the world, providing a wide range of services, including auditing, tax consulting, advisory, and more. And Kaushal has more than 2 decades of experience building solutions for banking and capital markets across the US, the EU, and Latin America. He's a leading expert in emerging computational neuroscience field and focused on a mission to build the next generation of general intelligence machines. He is also the founder of Deep Money AI, building LATAM's first fully autonomous hedge fund, and has invented, created, and patented the artificial intelligence architecture for wealth management AI machines that invest across global exchanges and funds. Solvo Solutions is a regional leader in financial technology solutions and was acquired by GFT. And now, for starters, let me get Chao Chen onto the stage where we can continue the framing of the topic briefly before we continue with the panel. Welcome, Chao Chen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. We have a great crowd. And well, very briefly, I think it's important. I laid out a little bit of where we are situationally. And I would love to hear from you very quickly where we stand right now in terms of AI, today in 2024, September, as we head to the fourth quarter of the year. What's the status of the industry?
Thank you, Ray, and for the introduction. And as you shared a lot of great data, and from comparing, what now with the past 24 months, and there are a lot of excitement, and the trend is clear that number one is the technology continue to advance, and then you bring, NVIDIA and from the computing side to, the new model, and which is becoming more powerful, and it's especially from Gen AI side, that's a large investment go into this, and then from the GPT-3 to now, and then it's very clear the power, the accuracy, and the being personalization side. A lot of advancement. The AI becoming more powerful, and of course the AI related use cases, and then which a lot of use cases at the beginning was just talking about trend and also potential use case, but now that's in the past 24 years and 24 months till now, many end up becoming really use case which has been tested and which have been used by many customers. And those I just categorize in a few. Number one is AI-powered personalization, and it's very clear. And then with AI, that's many financial service or banks, payment company are able to provide personalized service, and that is what customer need. And then this just enhance dramatically the customer experience. And of course, when we talk about AI, a lot of time we talk about automation, and AI-driven automation is just to create tons of benefit from the efficiency gain for both large enterprise and also for startup, even for individuals. And of course that's in financial service industry, this is it's a risk management related industry, where that's you now with AI, and many of the financial institutions and have a lot better data set, and then the real-time decision making, and then future fraud detection, all that power becoming to a new level. And that's powered also by Gen AI, where that creates new interaction or customer interaction channels, and like chatbot and voice banking and all that, just bring new type of customer experience. And of course that's financial institution, no matter from the banking, payment, and all of them are just starting to large scale adoption. And we have seen a lot of news, and we just organized our Chicago AI Week and a 2030 show, and on a daily basis I'm talking to many banks and large payment companies, and then they just share that from the more internal driven testing, and now a lot of them are moving to the customer facing application, and that can really drive them to just achieve new potential in terms of growth and competitiveness. And of course that's in the financial industry, and this is heavily regulated, and then regulation compliance is a very important part of the AI evolution. And that's a global regulatory advancement is really another very interesting point where that's, from the OECD and the G20 countries, they're working on, creating harmonized frameworks on responsible AI. And, my organization as AI 2030, we also, introduce our responsible AI framework. And we can see that in Europe, then there's the EU AI Act, and in US, there's a NIST risk management framework, and many, organizations or agencies introducing, or even state level introducing new AI related regulation. All that all create a lot of clarity for the industry to evolve. Lastly, I want to also mention about the AI related innovation. And interestingly, that's today is the day that we just finished the couple application of the FinTech Innovation Lab, and then we got over 200 applications. All of them, we just go through the selection process, and then we have seen many of them are leveraging AI and introducing tremendous new type of service, and compare the quality this year with the year before, and we have seen a lot of innovations are a lot more mature, and I'm pretty sure that then a lot of new opportunities are entering into the market, and that's also a great news for the investors and also for customers.
Well, look, I think that's a great start to this conversation, and we have a lot to get to, especially. And I would like to bring in Kushal and Shubhra if on stage. Hi guys, how are you?
Yeah, thanks. Hello everyone.
So look, we started this conversation, and I think everybody knows here at FinTech Americas, we're big evangelists, we're big believers, but there's the reality of what we're seeing in the marketplace. There's been a lot of talk. We saw this week the market shake, which is kind of a little bit incredible because, NVIDIA, still has had a banner year and has explosive growth, but yet there's some inventories of GPUs that are beginning to accumulate. As Satya Nadella from Microsoft said, expect an air pocket in the industry as it continues to grow. And so the question to you, Shubhra, is looking at it from your perspective in the EY. There's been a tremendous amount of hype behind this. The last year, it's all been about AI. Here we are talking with a huge crowd that we've been able to get together, interested in talking about the subject. How do you see the current state of this? Is it settling down into really a workable level, or are we still overhyped? What's your position on where we stand in the AI industry?
Yeah, great question, Ray. We've definitely seen a large evolution, especially when it became a big buzzword back in September 2022 to where we are today. Initially, a lot of our clients were more interested in understanding how is it going to impact their industry. What is really, especially with generative AI, that's when it became a big thing for corporate. And they wanted to understand what are the relevant use cases, how does it apply to their industry, and so on. We have seen a huge evolution in thinking beyond that. We've seen a lot of our clients have moved from that initial discovery phase of just trying to understand what is AI, or generative AI for that matter, to then testing a lot of different use cases, doing pilots, proof of concepts, and actually seeing some huge impacts of those initial pilots and proof of concepts. That has also led to what we call the phenomenon of shadow AI, where a lot of these business units are starting to build their own AI capabilities. At the same time, we've seen very few, but some large corporates that are starting to take this at enterprise level and are now starting to define what does it mean for them as an enterprise with the advent of AI, generative AI, and how does it impact their strategy overall, not just their AI strategy, but their business strategy? Is there an opportunity for them to transform as a company, incorporating AI into almost the fabric of the organization, or as we call it, the organizational DNA? And that's really where we are seeing some of these early adopters now starting to think about this at enterprise level.
Thank you, Kushal. You are one of, I think, the practitioner here that has created products and brought them to market. Especially in our region in Latin America. And last year, I think you saw the interest of our community. For those who don't know, we had held a workshop last year at our conference in Miami, and it was a masterclass by Kushal in artificial intelligence and financial services. We had warned them. We said, hey, there's a more than zero probability that zero people show to this class. And well, Kushal's class ended up having, I don't know, what was it, about 300 people. We had to it was more, we had people out in the hallway. So there's a tremendous amount of interest. But in looking at the practicality, I mean, the issue about artificial intelligence, first of all, it is massively capital intensive at a massive scale. And second of all, we've sort of seen consumers have been using it, even though it's tapering off. But where are the enterprise products? I think what the market is looking for is when the businesses really begin to adopt this at scale in a way that clearly shows an ROI of the capability of the technology. You have created some products. You guys are working at the tip of the spear in creating products for the financial services industry. How do you see it evolving, and where are we today?
Yeah, it's a great question, and complementing what Zauchen and Subra just mentioned, Ray, and I think that's the practicality. Yeah, finally, how do we translate this into real products, services, and value for the customers and for the enterprises? And I would like to put this into context into two dimensions. Yeah, so there are essentially two players across Americas and especially Latin America, one is the incumbent banks, which are massive, and in countries like Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, we have some massive incumbent banks. And on the other side, we also have some great success stories of new digital banks, especially likes of Neki, Nubank. In Brazil, we have some great success cases. We have Lulo here in Colombia as well. So in that sense, these are the kind of two real institutions which are playing an important role. And then there is a real kind of challenge and opportunity here, because if we really see how AI can add value in these products and services, this is essentially in 4 dimensions. Number one is there is a data advantage. Yeah. So if we see really whether a digital bank or an incumbent bank, which really has a data advantage or information advantage, it's really the incumbent banks, because they have massive customer base, they have great amount of information, they know their customers, and they've been accumulating this information. So that is where the new digital banks and the new fintechs have certain ground to cover up. But then there are other dimensions. So for example, infrastructure, as you said, the resource advantage, that is again an important variable where we see the incumbent banks having some advantage, and some well-funded startups or fintechs also have some advantage. But as a fintech or as a new startup, you have to really consider how to really optimize and see how we can really use the infrastructure around AI. And then there is the architecture, agility, and the talent. So that is where I think the level playing field happens, is because although the incumbent banks have the data advantage and they know their customers well, but many of those incumbent banks have legacy infrastructure and architecture, which is built over traditional technology. And this technology is not really ready for AI or to build the new solutions. So that is where the new digital banks and fintechs and startups can take advantage, because although they may not have the data advantage or the infrastructure to build it, but they can definitely build new product stacks or new solution stacks. And that is where they have to play to their strengths. Now, interestingly, regulators in Latin America, like to be honest, they have, over the last 5 years, they have really kind of worked hard, especially during COVID, to bring in digital processes, allowing ways to onboard the customers and do inclusion. And there is another risk for incumbent banks, is that their biggest advantage, which is data, is now being democratized by open finance regulations. So in that sense, if you ask me today, in terms of AI, it is becoming more and more level playing field, because you are having data which is being democratized by open finance regulations. The startups have a certain advantage, or fintechs have a certain advantage to bring new technology ground up. And I would say really at this point in time, the biggest challenge which I see in Latin America is talent. Although we are seeing some talent coming up in places like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico. But I think where really we would probably have to invest and develop as a talent because that is where the opportunity cost is. Yeah, so I think it's a very important time. I would say both incumbent banks and digital banks have their strengths, but really in terms of AI, I think we are in a very interesting moment where we can build some exciting technology. So that is where we are working with our partners and advising them that be responsible. It is not really a question of race in terms of getting resources and technology. It's really building the strategy, because the last point which I want to ensure is AI is very capital intensive. We have to be smart in how we invest in AI, and that is the biggest advice I can give.
Xiao Chen, if you wanted to see, and we're looking at, our audience tends to be made up of, banks, a large, as Kaushal was saying, large banks, national banks. They range in size. In Brazil, they can go up to $500 billion in assets, and down in some of the smaller companies is $1 billion in assets. So it's a wide range, and so their ability to invest is obviously limited by their size. As you're looking at the financial services industry, what is one of the sort of on-ramps that you would recommend to a financial services leader, a CEO sitting, you looking at what to do here? It looks great. The technology looks like it could be transformative. Where does he or she start in terms of their adoption of AI into a financial services institution?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. And a lot of conversation we have with the C-level financial the leader in the financial institution, starting from trying to understand this person's personal understanding of this. And some are really becoming AI experts, and others really just even don't have high level understanding. So number one is to understand him or her, and also his or her team, and at the leadership, and what is their level of understanding, and then to identify the gap and see that's it's a knowledge gap, awareness gap, or technology gap, infrastructure gap. And understanding the gap is really the key to just to discover and what can be done. And secondly is to looking at ask we have the checklist, using the checklist to just understand their business, and in terms of from the AI related application, and what kind of which areas align the best with their operation and the business, and identifying the larger opportunities. And the third is really looking at their capability or internal human resources. And it is very clear that many of the financial institutions, although they care about it, they also want to do a lot on it in the future, but they just don't have the human capacity. And then we need to help them to identify what are the strategy to really fill that capacity gap. And the last one is to really help them to just understand AI need to be developed responsibly, and then here are the best practice, and then if you don't do it, what will be the risk? And we have identified the within AI 2030 we have the 6 pillars, and within responsible AI, which include privacy, fairness, accountability, and transparency, safety, security, and also sustainability, and use those pillars to guide the conversation, and make sure that when they develop and adopt AI, and then they adopt it in the responsible way, and then they can just take AI leadership. And all that to start from our responsible AI pledge. And so basically no matter you have ability, you have understanding, you have strategy or not, and through the responsible AI pledge, the pledge process, many times leaders in financial organization will start get a better understanding what they have, what they don't have, and what they should be doing.
Thank you. Shubhra, you same kind of question. I mean, you get clients. I know you work at the tip of the spear in terms of innovation, from the metaverse and now to AI. When clients are coming to EY, and I'm sure you guys have some of the biggest clients in the world, and they're like, I would imagine saying, okay, now what? What do we do with this thing? What use cases are you guys in here? We have actually George Barahona asked the question, what use cases, any use cases we can talk about that would be an appropriate on-ramp for banks and financial institutions to explore AI?
Yeah, great question, Ray. So, broadly, when it comes to use cases, there are three key categories. One focused on enhancing the revenue, second focused on optimizing the cost, and the third on managing risk. When it comes to financial services, for each of these categories, we've been helping our clients in different ways. So, for enhancing revenue, one of the key use case here could be, and this is where we have personally helped many financial services industry players, banks, is in the area of personalized customer services or enhancing your sales process. So, for example, we work with a commercial bank on their sales process. Their biggest challenge was they had some amazing sales players, and then there were some sales players who were still trying to figure out how do they better engage with their customers. When it comes to the management, it was hard for them to analyze every call that the sales agents were making to be able to then provide some insights to their broader sales agents on what they can do to improve the sales call, sales process, and so on. And this is where we helped the bank look through the different data points, and we actively leverage AI because that is the beauty of AI. It can look at vast majority of unstructured data sets and provide some insights. And here we were able to tap into a lot of those calls, get some data, and provide very good insights for the other sales agents to see what can they do to help enhance their call, to the point that they now have personalized AI coaches who are guiding them through the calls and enhancing their sales process, where we have seen 50% improvement in the amount of sales opportunities they have been able to bring. So that's just one example more on enhancing revenue side. On the other side, when it comes to cost savings, there are use cases like claims processing, right? Especially for industries or companies where there's a lot of data that resides in the form of scanned documents. AI, particularly generative AI, has amazing capability to very quickly scan those documents and provide very relevant insights. Of course, you always need humans in the loop to ensure that the data you're seeing back from AI models is actually reliable and trustable. But at the same time, there's a huge amount of time savings and efficiency improvements that we've been able to gain through leveraging AI in such processes. And then lastly, on managing risk, especially when it comes to financial services industry, fraud detection is a big component of managing risk. And that's again where AI is proving huge value.
Thank you, Kishal. I mean, and this is a question, and a lot of this I'm just trying to get my understanding almost from my own curiosity. So we have the AI generators, the AI companies, the large language models, and that's for the big players. That's, you know, multi-billion-dollar computational power, the chief scientists, and massive amounts of data. You're talking, of course, OpenAI with Microsoft. You got Google. You got AWS. You got the main players. And it takes a lot of money in order to be a developer of AI. And then you have the use cases, the banks who may be customers. Do you foresee it not being the banks themselves, but companies like GFT and Sophos who are using and building products for the banks as opposed to the banks going and trying to build their own products? Where does the evolution of the industry happen? Do the banks just become consumers like they are of core technology, and now you will develop a product leveraging these large language models, and then GFT develops something to create some efficiency or revenue generating opportunity and then sell that to the banks? Or do the banks go directly? How do you see this developing?
Yeah, and I think there is like really it has to be a collaboration, because as we know in financial ecosystem, product companies' biggest challenge is not only building the products but implementing them in the banks. Yeah, so there is always the two side of it. So definitely, organizations like GFT and other tech companies and fintechs are building products and the technology outside the traditional ecosystem of a bank, because they definitely have, as Shubhra mentioned, some use cases, some priorities very focused on cost, revenue, and personalization. But at the same time, there are other technologies, and also AI is a technology which cannot be just built or consumed in isolation. It is connected to a lot of other legacy technologies within the bank, because they have a lot of other applications and systems which have to be connected on end to end. Also, AI is now also just a part of a bigger technology stack, because we are also seeing in the region, in countries like Brazil, where we have PIX. In Colombia, we just announced the Breve, which is the new payments or immediate payments and cross-border payments regulation and standards. So there also we are looking at now digitalization of assets and in a custodian or with all the custodian.
Oh, I think Kushal has
assets. So what we are seeing specifically, as you mentioned, Ray, is that companies like GFT and other fintechs will build the product and solutions, but then we will work and collaborate with the traditional incumbent and digital banks for the implementation, and that is going to be, I would say, a challenge because what we are discussing with our customers is that in order for them to kind of in a way adopt this in a timely manner, the challenge is that traditionally the banks were very close stack, so they used to have very close stack. Some of the banks also preferred their own data centers, but many of these technologies that we see today, they are more open stack. They have to go and implement the solutions in cloud. So there is kind of two things happening in the parallel. While our customers become AI ready, we are building the technology, and at some point we will converge and take it into the next phase of this adoption. But there is definitely some challenges ahead.
Well, here, and I'm going to continue with you, Kushal, because you have a question here from Augusto Nicole, who asks, what is your experience with customers in Latin America in reference to the following? And he has a follow-on question, which is, does such customers have a data and digital strategy before going to use AI to solve a business or customer problem, or they just bought an AI tool and then try to find a use for it? It's a good question.
Actually, both is happening. So most of our customers do have a data and digital strategy, and it accelerated because of COVID and because of the digital solutions in the ecosystem. But in terms of AI, I think there is a bit of, I would say, like there are two sides of it. Like there are organizations which are doing too much of analysis, trying to find the perfect use case, the perfect business case, and sometimes they are kind of in a way trying to build a perfect strategy for AI, which I don't think so is the right way to go either, because you really have to find a way to start preparing your talent, preparing your organization. So yes, I know customers who have already started building AI teams and tools, building it as proof of concepts, proof of values. So I think if you ask me, there is quite a good level of maturity in the data and the digital strategy. There is some interest in going into AI. There is a bit of a fear on what that road ahead would look like. But my suggestion in this particular case is that it's better to get started early, some specific use cases, and then we really see what are the gaps as an organization in terms of talent, infrastructure, and architecture, which I need to build. Because really, if you ask me, AI might be just a 20 or 30% solution to a bigger problem in terms of migrating to the next generation architecture. So I think there are a lot of other things to get it right. And the only suggestion I have is that if you are getting started today, align. Yeah. So today, data, digital, and AI strategy has to be one strategy if you are starting out today, so that we don't have to go and do kind of a redundant exercise in a couple of years' time.
Chao Chen, if you were going to advise a board and a C-suite of a bank today, how would you tell them to prepare themselves organizationally for an AI strategy to be competitive in the next 5 years? What would be the ingredients that would go into preparing them? Is it putting, capital, training? How would you advise them to move forward?
Yeah, and the number one thing I would really just focusing on the business model, and where that's I always communicate with them that the most important business model for a financial institution now is AI model, where that's if you really don't everyone else in your industry is trying to just leveraging AI to redesign their business model and create new offers. And now that's if you just don't do anything or your business model doesn't change, and naturally that's you even don't know what the future will look like and what that personalized financial service may look like, and then your traditional offer may be phased out. So then I think that kind of opportunity is all our challenge are huge. So that's why number one thing is really looking at the business model, whether the current business model are AI proof. And so I think that is the number one thing I will ask. And the second part is really just help them to understand, link that back to Kashu's comment, their existing infrastructure, people, technology, and with AI. And many times that's then they want to have from this question from the audience and a lot of organizations just think that they acquire or just procure an AI offering from outside, then they becoming an AI organization, and that itself actually create a lot of risks and rather than opportunity for organizations, and where that the security potential risk, customer facing related privacy related risk, and if the data itself or the model itself has problem, and then if you are you need to comply, and the fairness related risk, and a lot of kinds of risk which are being brought into an organization. Those risks again are very new to them. If you have not put together a procurement process to understand all those risks, and your infrastructure are not really ready to deal with this risk, and naturally this is just introducing a lot more risk rather than opportunity. The third part is, again, go back to the governance piece, where that's again, when you talk to the leadership, especially the executive and also product directors, and think about your AI offerings are now transforming your customer journey. Who are the most important part in your business? That's your customer, and then your AI is interacting directly with your customers. And if AI has problem, and if you don't have a governance structure set up, and if you, for example, the risk related part or the responsibility related part is being managed only by a business leader, where that's the business leader has a tendency trying to push for revenue, where that's if that's AI solution is really impact your customer in a very negative way, and then the business leader is not ready to just stop the application while that your business suffer and your customer is suffering. So there, that's you need to really have a governance structure to govern AI differently from other offering. And last piece is really just ask them to whether they understand that the new type of business model, working model, and employment model is really based on human-machine collaborative intelligence, where that's if your operation is still built on top of a human-centered or human-centric model, which doesn't really allow the human-machine collaborative intelligence model to be introduced in your core business. And naturally, that's your AI solution will make human uncomfortable, and also make your AI cannot really just realize its full potential. So those are the core questions we ask and try to help the executive to find answers.
Thank you, Shubhra. So we go, and I think we've been seeing a tremendous amount of AI washing. Everything is now AI, and everybody's bringing out AI. But, I think sort of at the bottom line, we're still very early pioneers days of AI. This is, it's been enchanting. It shows tremendous potential. But I think Javier Gomez Moreno here has a great question, which goes to this point. Why do a lot of companies focus so much in acquiring AI before understanding first how it could help them and their business objectives? When sitting in the, going back to my question to Chao Chen, sitting in a C-suite, and I know you sit in a C-suite with a lot of these leaders, and they're like, they're fearful of staying behind, but they're fearful of getting too in front of this before and making these investments without knowing where they're going with this. So is AI a solution, or is it a strategy? I mean, how should the C-suite be sitting in there looking at this and saying it's just a tool like I have other tools? Or is it something that should be central to the way that they plan their business strategy moving forward?
Yeah, great question, Ray. And I would add on to what Kaushal and Xiaochen mentioned, which is almost like balancing the need for speed on one side, and on the other side, the need to manage the risk. So yes, AI is critical for organizations. Yes, it is creating a lot of impact for a lot of organizations, especially at their pilot levels. And therefore, there is a rush on a competitive level to get ahead in the market. At the same time, what is important is to figure out where exactly should you be investing your dollars, and at the same time, getting the confidence of the board. So you need to show some early indications of that impact of AI through some primary use cases, leveraging some use cases to show that, yes, this is creating the right impact for our company, leveraging that to get investment at the next level, which could be at the enterprise level, which could be at the business unit level. That level of confidence is required by the boards, by the C-suite, and therefore that must happen at first. The second key part is to leverage that, implement, and then at the same time manage the risk, to Xiaochen's point, because yes, these are great use cases, but if they're not effectively balanced with risk, so that level of investment on responsible AI framework is needed in parallel. So yes, it is a solution with the right use cases that needs to be brought into the company. And at the same time, there is some strategy required at the enterprise level, especially when it comes to responsible AI framework.
Kaushal, we had in our conversation the other day, we quickly touched on the regulatory environment in Latin America and the U.S. Here, there's a lot of consternation going about, regulating AI and trying to create a framework moving forward to try to keep this technology's potential impact fenced in and somewhat predictable, I suppose. In Latin America, what's the environment looking like from a company that's building and utilizing these types of technologies in your products?
Sure, absolutely. So I think the regulatory environment is, as I said, it has two phases. In terms of AI context, I would say currently we are not seeing any direct regulation. We are seeing more indirect regulation. So an example, as we discussed, is open finance. So open finance is in a way an indirect regulation, which will have impact on how we build future models based on open finance. So it is kind of creating a level playing field in terms of how data is accessible for building future models or future solutions. In terms of a lot of regulatory focus right now is in ensuring that we are creating fair products. The payments becomes real time. The cost of doing financial transactions, access to those services. So they're really right now focusing on the product solution side of it and some indirect regulation. However, I would say in the next phase, but I think say probably in 2 years' time, that is when they would really start understanding some of these technologies, because the risk is that AI is an expensive solution, as part of the stack. And invariably, some of that cost might be transferred to the customers, or it will become part of the overall services cost. And then there are systematic risk around the confidentiality. There's a lot of challenges in Latin America around a lot of other regulations in terms of how you can do international business and so on. So I think at this stage, at least, I think it's a last mile problem. It is not the first mile problem. So today, if I am a fintech or a digital or incumbent bank, it really is not prohibitive. We can plan our strategy. We can plan our solutions. There are some very specific regulations just focus on open finance, blockchain, and payments and other products and services. So we can build it. And I would say in 2 years' time, probably a more global or regional regulation will come up. But right now, I think it is not a concern for any of our customers.
Okay. Shubhra, practically speaking now, and saying, here comes a customer, sits down with you and says, all right, we get it. Our C-suite is in it. We want to do something. We don't know yet. So to Dario Oleaga's question, he says, what should we look for in terms of talent to organize an AI unit? You know, bank XYZ and country XYZ says, we want to do something. Where do you start? How would you recommend to them to organize a team or talent to address this?
Yeah, good question. So it really begins with the scope, right? What are you implementing? Let's say if you have figured the right use case, then great, then it becomes easier to define the team around it. Let's say it's a step before, which is where you're still figuring the right use case, or you're figuring it's going to be an enterprise strategy, then it's a different discussion. But let's say if the discussion is, okay, which is the right use case? Where should we focus? Then it really boils down to where do you see the maximum problem? You know, is it in terms of enhancing your revenue? Is it in terms of optimizing costs? Is it in terms of managing risk? So identifying where should you put your dollars to really get the maximum impact you're looking for at this point of time. And once you have zeroed in on your use case, then it boils down to building a cross-functional talent or a team that can focus on that initial use case, and that will include people who understand that business process or business problem very well, to folks who understand it from a human-centered perspective, the design team, and then the third key team being the technologist who can really identify the right AI solutions to help solve for that problem. And then, of course, you need to wrap around all of that is your legal, compliance, risk, and other teams to ensure that you're actually building responsible AI components into your solution.
But do you think you need, I mean, if you have a bank and you're in Latin America, and you sit there and say, let's send someone from our technology office over to MIT for a course and teach them, upskill them? Or do we got to go get ourselves someone, you know, who really is embedded deeply into the AI industry? You know, because the other parts of the team kind of exist and we can put together the use case, but the person who needs to know the AI inside of the organization, the person who's going to be leading and spearheading this and understanding the data risk, maybe not the regulatory, but the data risk, the technology investment, what should a bank do? Should it hire or should it upskill somebody? And,
yeah.
and I'm sorry, just to say it, maybe let's say that we're interested, but we don't have a use case. We just know that this technology looks so powerful and so impressive that we think we need to bring it into our organization.
Yeah. Again, a great question. So definitely some level of understanding of AI is required, especially for folks in the team or the folk who is leading that use case or that initiative. So whether it means upskilling by taking external courses, or it means bringing in some external party like a consulting firm to help infuse that AI expertise into the team, either of those would be critical to make the project a success.
Xiaoqin, how would you, one of the big concerns that, especially financial services institutions that are highly regulated, particularly regulated around the use of data, how should they prepare themselves from a data perspective to get into the AI industry?
Yeah, thank you. And before I address that, I want to also go a little bit back to that question there from the talent side. And I think there are a lot of very interesting points mentioned by Shubha. But one thing, what I always ask the financial institution is really, what is your mental model there to establish your unit? And is that, as Ray, you mentioned, is that the purpose is to learn, the purpose to build, the purpose is to you have some customer problem now you need to fix now, or the purpose is to just really to design something totally different as the next generation of service. So based on that mental model, what you have, then you understand whether what will be the most effective. And is that just using the existing team or using the ones external, and then to function in what way to serve that mental model or that hypothesis? I think that is really the key. And go back to your question related to the data side. And again, that's data is really the foundation of your AI strategy. And what is AI? AI is really just leveraging data to make smarter decision. And without data, then there's no AI. So data is really the foundation. And many organizations actually, I think the number one thing we go to, if they don't have a modern data strategy, and then they will not have effective AI strategy. For example, their data, if your data is still, go back to what are you using data for. And then when I work for a cloud company, and we always see that you use data for 3 levels. One is migration, the other is the second is transformation, the third is innovation. So where that's, if you don't do migration, meaning that you don't know, or your data don't sit in the same place, and then naturally that's when you have application level try to use the data, you even cannot find the data doesn't talk to each other, and then naturally your AI will not be effective. So the migration piece is really important. Then you go to the transformation piece. That's after you put the data into the same place, and then there that's you need really just say what kind of application that or use case that you need to leveraging those data. Again, there that's how to just leverage different services and then around AI to just make smart decisions, and again based on your business need. And then you need to really just build a new solution or improve the existing solution. Mostly is cutting costs and improve efficiency, and then to do modernization related transformation. The third piece I think is really critical, where that's how to combine AI, your data, and other emerging technology to really innovate in the sense of introducing new customer experience, introducing new operational model, introducing new type of offering which were never there before, and then give you a new way to imagine and how you can satisfy your customer need in a fundamentally different way. So all that based on you need to have a modern data strategy before you can have really an AI strategy. But in general, I think that AI is not a tool. AI is a strategy, and you need to take it at strategy level to make AI effective. And then that AI strategy include also the data strategy is part of the infrastructure of your AI strategy. Yeah.
Thanks, Kaushal. We have a few minutes here to start wrapping up. So I think, as to Chao Chen's point, there's 3 components to AI. It's obviously computational, massive computational power, massive amounts of data, and of course talent. That is the one that's going to cook all of this together. Looking at it from a bank's perspective and saying, okay, we're going to outsource the computational power. We don't have that investment. To Shubra's point, we're going to sort of ring fence. We're going to get some consultants that are going to help us with our talent issue. The data is what is interesting. That's what a lot of these companies want, is these banks' financial data. That's what could make this really into a powerful industry. From your experience, how should a bank prepare themselves from a data perspective to really begin this? And a big question, and I'm going to actually just come to me, can a bank that has not digitally transformed, that is modernized its technology stack, that has in turn really began to structure its data usage and the way that it's going to operate, can a bank that has not successfully digitally transformed leapfrog into AI, or does it have to go through a digital transformation before they get to the door of AI?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question, Ray. And based on our experience, like the way we solve this kind of complex problems, both in terms of strategy and solution, is a very simple approach. Yeah, I always tell our customers and our teams is that for every problem, there is an AI solution, but there is also a non-AI solution. Yeah. So it's not that we need to have AI for everything. Yeah. So we always take into consideration and in context, what is the non-AI solution? Yeah. And by that, I mean, sometimes a non-AI solution can be simpler and smarter because there is a difference between insight and intelligence. Yeah. So many times the end goal of building a solution is very different. And sometimes simpler traditional solutions can work better. Yeah. So what I always advise is that not everything has to be AI. There is always a non-AI solution. Then we do a real analysis on that. But at the same time, I think the fact of the matter is that a lot of the future innovations will have a certain technology stack. Yeah, as I said, cloud first. How do you where do you capture and store and process your data? But the bigger question is, who is the owner of the data? Yeah, and how do I kind of really use it as an advantage? Because let's say, as I said, open finance regulation can change the way I do business and I use the data. So this based on our experience, also the message that we give to our customers is that don't see data as really a solution for everything in AI, because the conception or the paradigm is the bigger the data or the more data I have, I can build better AI, and that is not true either. Because there's a lot of work which has to be done in the models. More data also means more resources, more compute, and more cost. So we have to be very smart, and the best way to do it is slowly transition out as part of the AI strategy, as Xiaocheng and Shubhra mentioned. As part of your overall strategy, start modernizing that infrastructure, so that if not today, you can be ready in 6, 12, or 18 or 24 months time, in order to kind of really onboard the innovations that we will see. Because definitely we will see the next iteration or generations of large language models. So the large language models of future will be small language models, very, very specific to industry specific use cases. Similarly, for finance, we will have a finance specific language models, and that's how we will innovate in the future. So I think first, be very pragmatic. For everything which is AI, there is a solution for non-AI, and start preparing for the future. And the time is now for that. Yeah, but it can be done in small steps. And I think it's more of a collaboration. I think all these technologies in the future can only be made better and adopted better by collaboration. So I think the incumbent banks will have to change the mindset, and will have to become more open and more inclusive in terms of technology development.
Well, look, this has been an amazing show that we've had. I really appreciate you all taking your time and providing our audience with your insights into this really sort of breathtaking technology world that we're facing. Xiaocheng, Shubhra, Kaushal, thank you so much for being with us today, and we hope to see you guys very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Everyone. Thank you.
Well, wow, what a riveting show we've had today. A huge thank you to our amazing guests. Their insights have not only opened our minds, but sparked a whole new level of curiosity and excitement for the future. And a big thank you to all of you for tuning into this program. We are reaching the end of our show, where we have talked a lot about innovation. And that's why, before we go, I have a little reminder for you. The nominations for the 2025 Financial Innovators Awards are still open. For the past decades, the Financial Innovator Awards celebrated over 300 visionaries who've been transforming the financial industry to become more agile, efficient, and inclusive. Leaders from banks, cooperatives, financial institutions, and fintechs, all reshaping the game with their disruptive solutions and business models. As I said, the nominations are still open, but time is ticking. The deadline is September 20th. This is your moment to shine as an innovative leader, both on the national and regional scale. So don't let this chance slip away. We've shared more info in the chat, and you can also scan the QR code that's about to appear on our screen and dive deeper into what these awards are all about. Well, good luck to all the participants. Well, and with that, I want to thank you once again for tuning in. Have a fabulous rest of the week, and I can't wait to see you back here on our next FATV program. Take care, everyone. Have a great day.